Thank you to Zhiyun for sponsoring today's video. So we are back again for another video with Zhiyun all about studio lighting. So the last video that we did seemed to resonate really well. We went through, I think it was about 6 looks in the studio using Zhiyun lighting. And so I thought in today's video, we could look at some more lighting setups with a particular focus on kind of low-key, moody, dramatic lighting. Throughout this shoot, we are using the brand new light from Zhiyun from their collaboration with filmmaker Carey. So this right here that I have in my hands is the new MOLUS X100 RGB lights from Zhiyun. It is, as I said, a collaboration with Carey and is the newest iteration of the palm size series of lights from Zhiyun. So I used this light as my key light, and I also used a couple of their previous iterations, the X60 RGBs, alongside it. Of course, as we get through the looks, I will dive into exactly how I used these lights and with which modifiers. So this is the actual light. You can use it plugged into the mains, or you can use it with a battery. We used it with both throughout the shoot, and I'm going to explain why that was throughout the video. For reference, the film stocks that I used throughout this video were 400 speed, and I didn't push it. So that kind of gives you some sort of reference as to how bright this light can get. I shot a mixture of film and digital. Digital Sony A7 IV with the Viltrox 40mm lens, and then for film, Mamiya RZ67 Pro 2 with some Cinestill 400D. But let's jump into the first look, which was a nice, easy side light look. Cool, I might get to step forward a tiny bit. Okay, we'll go 1, 2, 3, lovely, and then look in that way for me. Perfect. Go 1, 2, 3, lovely. I'm gonna get you to stand kind of facing the light completely, kind of that way. Perfect. Okay, nice, hold there. Go 1, 2, 3, lovely. Cool, and then we'll do a couple like just slow shutter stuff. So I think we did it last time, like just like lots of movement. Everything's gonna be a bit blurry. Yeah, nice. Nice. Yeah, I love that. Perfect. Okay, 1, 2, 3, lovely. Perfect, cool. I think we'll change into the next look. I'm gonna change the setup a bit. So the MOLUS X100 RGB utilizes a custom-made ZY mount. So it's compatible with all the Zhiyun mini modifiers, and it's also compatible with a Bowens mount adapter, which comes with the light. So for this setup, I used the X100 RGB on the left-hand side with a large Zhiyun softbox, which is Bowens mount. So I used the Bowens mount modifier with that. I then also introduced a tiny little bit of fill towards the bottom of the frame using one of the X60 RGBs just placed on the floor with the mini softbox, which comes with the pro version of this X100 RGB. So for this look, it was very, very simple. We shot on the light side, and essentially what that means is when you're casting really strong shadows, when you have really strong light from one side, you have the light side and the dark side, essentially the shadow side and the light side. And the effects that you can get will differ depending on where you are shooting from. So you could use the same lighting setup but end up with 2 different looks. And we actually did this. So this first look and also the last look, we utilized this same setup essentially. But with the first look, I shot on the light side, and on the second look, which was the last look, we shot on the shadow side. Obviously I'll put on screen the variation so you can see the 2 different types of lighting and how that differs. I wanted to keep it really simple to start, just kind of get into the flow of it. I just really believe in not overcomplicating your lighting setups. This was a very simple lighting setup. We did use 2 lights, but realistically you could probably just add a reflector or some other kind of bounce in that bottom corner. You don't need the second light necessarily to achieve this kind of effect. So for the second look, I wanted to just do a very simple overhead lighting setup. You guys know I love doing an overhead lighting setup. So we attached the Zhiyun MOLUS X100 RGB onto the mini crane with the softbox. We also had a grid on it, and I think that's important to note because when you use grids, it obviously diffuses the light. It reduces the output from the light. The reason we do this is to control the spill of the light so that we're not getting all of that light on the backdrop. I wanted it just to be on the model and the backdrop to kind of take on a bit of a darker color. Yeah, nice. Chin down a little bit more because I'm just underneath. Yeah, perfect. Nice, 1, 2, 3, lovely. To look even more towards that window. So you're like really, yeah, perfect. And chin down again, like almost like looking, yeah, perfect, exactly like that. That's perfect. Hold that, 1, 2, 3, lovely. On the X100 RGB, the CCT range is crazy. I think it's 2,500K to 10,000K, which I think is the largest range I personally own on a quad light. I went kind of towards the middle with 5,200, trying to kind of stay within that kind of like almost like warm daylight kind of vibe. One of the great things about Zhiyun lights is that you can control them with the app. And that's great when you are rigging a light really high up and you don't want to keep bringing it down, back up, back down again to control the lighting. You can just do it on your phone and you can also see the effects in real time. So the first two looks were super simple. We just wanted to utilize some nice white light, quite clean, quite moody, quite dark. And for the third look was where I kind of started to think a little bit more creatively. So as you guys know, I work a lot in live music. And one of the things I always really like in live music is when you end up with like a silhouette. I also really love shooting backlit in portraiture where I'm shooting on location. And so I wanted to kind of like bring those two together and try to create a silhouette. The great thing about this light is that obviously it can be battery powered. And whilst we had it plugged into the mains for the rest of the shots, it was really handy that we could put the battery on for this shot. If I just clip it on, you'll see that is the size of it. So that's still pretty small. But what this meant was that I could put the light and the light stand behind the model and kind of hide it behind the model without having cables coming out to the side. So then when I shone the light and it came from behind him, all you could kind of see was like the rim light around him, around his silhouette. I shot some of these on film and obviously they were much darker. I wanted them to be much darker. Using 400 speed film, I wasn't sure how they'd come out. And I actually really like them. They have this kind of like weird texture because of the low light. I like it. It's kind of like edgy and a bit grimy and kind of exactly what I was going for. But the digital shots are some of my favorite that we shot for this whole shoot. I really like the moodiness. I really like the shapes that we were able to create. Of course, the X100 RGB, as it says in the name, is also an RGB light. So you can really quickly change the vibe of the shoot by adding some different colors. And one of the things that I wanted to do, because I wanted everything to be very moody and dramatic, was play around with more blue light. So for the silhouette setup, I also did that as well, to try and play around with not just having the white light and like those black and white edits, but also introducing something a little bit different. So another thing that comes with the Pro Kit is this reflector, like mini reflector and barn doors. So the reflector screws onto the mount on the light like so, and then these little barn doors are magnetic, so they just clip onto the reflector. One thing I really like about this is that they are actually numbered. They're just with stickers, so you can take them off if you want, but it tells you the order in which you want to close them. That's really handy for me because it just helps like pack things down really easily. But essentially then you have these barn doors and you can move them, close them to shape the light. So I did use this very quickly in a couple of shots just to kind of try it out. I'm never a massive fan of using barn doors as much as I am using something like a projection attachment, but the fact that this is so compact and easy to not only add to the light but also to carry means that I probably will use this a little bit more for these instances where I am just trying to create different levels of shadow and light. I try to keep the model's face in the dark and then just kind of have a focus on his hands and his arms. And I think this could be really effective if you were shooting like a fashion shoot where you were very specifically trying to sell a specific item of clothing. So with the Pro Kit, I also got this projection attachment, and you guys will know that I'm a big fan of using projection attachments and gobos, and so I wanted to just test out a couple of looks. One of the gobos that the Zhiyun projection attachment comes with is this little moon, which I thought was super cute, and there was also a heart. And I never really played around with those kind of shapes before, so I did a couple of shots using this, and I really like using gobos and projection attachments because it's just such a simple and easy way to add a different dynamic and a different texture to your work. This one is also super tiny, which is great. Like, it's literally the same size as my hand. Everything about this kit being so compact makes it so much more usable. It's obviously designed to be able to be used on location as well, which I'm hoping to be doing soon. So I'll keep you guys updated with how that goes. I actually was a little bit worried when I saw the size of it because I thought that the projections would be a lot tinier, but that wasn't a problem at all. They were a great size, and I can definitely see myself using this much more often within my work. So those were a few different kinds of lighting setups. The favorite one for me was definitely the silhouette. It was really fun to try something out that I haven't tried out before, but you can't really beat like a nice side light and a good overhead light either. Those ones are always kind of go-tos for me, especially at the beginning of the shoot when you're still getting into it and everything. But let me know what you think. Have you been trying out any new creative setups recently? And what do you think of the Zhiyun MOLUS X100 RGB? I think it's a great addition to my kit, and I'm going to be using it a lot more, so you're going to be seeing it a lot more on the channel. In fact, you might have even seen a video of me using it already on the channel, depending on when this one comes out. But thank you so much to Zhiyun for sponsoring this video and for sending me out this new kit to play with. If you want to get your hands on this new light, then I'm going to link it in the description and you can check it out yourself. Another big thank you to Zhiyun, and a big thank you to you guys for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.